Hello, and welcome to the final of the Pan-American Online Championships between Rafael Pérez from Argentina and Jared Platt from the USA. It will be the best of 3 games with 20 minutes each on the clock. And today commentating your games will be Daniel Olivares, Guy Plowman, Matthias Berg, and myself. This will be the first online tournament to be live streamed from the World Othello studio, with many more planned for the future. We'll be starting off today with the news, with the headlines being Joanna Williams winning the Sydney Open 2021, the World Othello Championships 2021's current situation, the World Othello Team Masters Tournament, and the Japanese Youth Othello Championships. So the Australian Nationals, as a result of Melbourne being locked down due to the coronavirus, not all Australian players were able to make it to Sydney for the Australian Nationals. Instead, 2 tournaments were held, one in Sydney and one for the Melbourne players, with the finalists playing in a 3rd tournament later in the year. The final of the Sydney Open was played by Joanna Williams and Scott Hughes. The eventual winner of the Sydney Open was Joanna, after a thrilling contest between the two. They will both play against the 2 finalists from the Melbourne Open, both of whom are yet to be decided, so make sure you stay tuned for that. The World Othello Championships for 2021 have unfortunately had to be cancelled again. They were originally planned to be held in France, but due to the coronavirus, this will be unable to take place. However, the World Othello Team Masters will take place online instead. The pairings for this tournament will be announced on the 10th of July, live in a live stream such as this, and the tournament itself will be on the 31st of July, with the final being on the 11th of December. The pairings announcement will be on the 10th of July, so make sure you book that in your calendars now. The Japanese Youth Othello Championships involve 2,000 of the best youth Othello players in Japan, battling it out to secure one of the 64 final spots of the Japanese Youth Othello Championships. The final of the tournament will be held on the 19th of September and will consist of 5 rounds and a final. The tournament will also be broadcast live here from the Othello studio on the 19th of September. eOthello is a site, if you didn't already know, that allows you to play players from all over the world. The thing that makes it special is that you have 72 hours to play each move, as well as an in-game chat feature. This means that you are never rushed for time, can work at thinking through every move and looking ahead, and also able to get to know your opponents, meaning you can get involved with the community more. eOthello hold a big tournament with every player every few months, which involves divisions so that you play players around your own level, and only 48 hours to play each move, so that it doesn't take too long. The next eOthello tournament will be held on the 10th of July, so make sure that you make an account and start playing on the website if you have not already. Finally, make sure that you subscribe to the World Othello YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and join the World Othello group if you have not already. So now we will move on to a discussion between the World Othello President, Guy Plowman, and the World Othello Secretary, Bengt Steenhoff.
Hi everybody.
Hello. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, so Luke and I are in the same house, and Bengt is in a different country. So here we are.
Yeah, and this is exciting. This is the first Studio Othello, and we hope that everyone will like it. And before we starting, I will say that I am also checking the YouTube chat. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, just write it in the chat, and I will Guy and I will discuss it.
Great. So, Bengt, how are you feeling about the last couple of years in the Othello world, and how, especially with the global situation with the pandemic?
It have been strange years, of course. I think I can talk for everyone that we're really longing for live Othello games and meeting friends and start to travel to tournaments. So it have really been a special year, and a lot of cancelled tournaments like World Othello Championship last year and this year. So yeah, it have been special.
Right, and it's always a silver lining to bad things. What good has come out of it, do you think?
This, and not only that we're trying to do new things online, we have noticed a lot of new players and new countries asking to be members in the World Othello Federation. I mean, Colombia, we have Macau is coming, and Oman is coming, and other countries. So that is good.
And significantly, China are taking steps to become members as well.
Yeah. So yes, it's. They say sometimes, at least in Sweden, that bad things also have some good things with it. So, but
And
yeah,
I would say that's definitely true for me as well. You're absolutely right. We all miss the over-the-board tournaments, meeting up with people, and the special feeling that you get when you actually play flipping the discs and hitting the clock. But
yeah.
at the same time, there have been a whole host of new online tournaments organised by different federations across the world. They've been well attended, well competed, and in some ways, I would say that the Othello world has become slightly smaller, in the sense that we're all more close online more regularly than we can be in over-the-board tournaments. And I think that that's a really good thing that's actually come out of this, and will complement the over-the-board season really nicely going forwards.
Yeah, and we see, for example, the World Othello Team Masters we will have soon. This is we shouldn't start it up if it hadn't been for the COVID, and we needed to cancel the WC. So I think it's a lot of new things. We needed to think different. We needed to find new things to do good for our players all over the world.
What is the format of that tournament? Because it's a little bit different, isn't it? We didn't want to replicate the World Championships because they have a special place themselves, but we wanted to have a global tournament with the best players, and we wanted it to be something slightly different to distinguish it from the World Championships. So what is the format of that tournament?
Yeah, you're right. We didn't replicate the World Othello Championship. We replicate the FIFA Football World Cup instead, because it's a team tournament. First of all, so it's 4 players in each team, and you play for your country. And first, it will be confederations qualification. So all federation in Asia, Europe, and Panamericano Confederation will have qualification, and the best teams going to the quarterfinal, the 16 top players, the 16 top teams. And there is also every group have 4 teams, in fact. So and then the 16 will be 8, and the quarterfinal, semifinal, final will be so. It is very look like the football FIFA World Cup system.
So how many confederations are there?
It will be around 50 federation fighting for the team master.
Okay, and they play in their group first, and then the top ones in the group go through?
Yeah.
And then
And
they
we
compete,
start,
so carry on.
yeah, we start in 1st August, and the final will be in December, so it will take all the autumn.
Okay,
And yes, it
and how the
will be groups of four teams in each
and
group.
how
Best.
right, and how the teams select their players is up to the individual federations.
Each federation have a team leader who decide who will play for each game, and it can be different players for each match.
Okay, so they can actually have a number of players they could have two different games, two different matches with two completely different teams if the
Yeah.
team leader chose to do it that way. Okay,
The good thing with this
and
is that, yeah,
no, I was just going to say, if you've got something else to say about the
yeah,
Masters, say it before
yeah.
we move on.
I think the good thing is here that in this way players can play against maybe never meeting before. I mean, Japan will maybe meeting Iran or Mongolia in one game, so this is a very good opportunity for players who normally not can go to World Tour Championship to meet the best players in the world.
Absolutely. And so this is the first episode of what we are calling Othello Studio. What's the plan with this? Where are we going with this in the future?
It is that we, how should I say this? We want to do the Othello world closer to everyone, so we can have a good way to show news and also show games, commented games, and maybe studies or interviews. So I think that will be good. I mean, you have been a host for the media team in 3 years, so I think you can answer better what we want to.
Well, I think the big thing that we want to be able to do is be accessible as a global community of Othello playing enthusiasts, or even people who just like to watch things like Othello or Othello specifically. We want to be accessible. So the big thing that I would say is if you are watching this and you feel that there's something that you would like us to do that informs you in a way that is useful, then please let us know through the chat. We'll pick it up. If we can respond to it immediately, then we will do so. But if it's something that we will consider for the future, then we will also listen to that. The idea is that the viewers, the people who come and watch, in this case, the Pan-American final, the people who come and watch it are learning and appreciating what is going on in this tournament.
Yeah. And if you are interested to be a part of the media team and working with the Studio Tello or social media, look, they are welcome.
Of course, just email Bengt, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bengt's
Luke
email
is
is available on the website, the World Othello website. So
yeah, so all links are at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. So if you're interested to be a host or a commentator or working with the news, please contact us, because this is also one answer to your question, Guy, that we want this be a way for people who want to do something and think it's fun to help us. Because
Yeah.
we're doing this for the members, and we hope the members will help us to do it fun and good.
Absolutely.
And also one thing I want to say is that yeah, now we're doing this in English, but we hope that we one day also can do in other language. I should be more happy to do this in Swedish one day
I'm
than
learning
English.
Swedish just for you. I'm not really.
Good. I hope that everyone else can do that. It should be easier. So, yeah.
Okay, and obviously, how many federations did you say there were again now across the world?
Oh, it is of federations. It is around 40 federations, but it 72 members in the World Othello Federation.
Okay, what's the difference between a federation and is it an associate member?
A federation is that they organize tournament, they have membership, they have a council, they're doing more events and things. And the other is, yeah, you maybe just one or two players in a country and not there to start up a federation really yet, but you want to be a member of the community.
Okay,
And
so
that's is
on at one level, the federations which are there to organise tournaments and promote the game in those countries,
yeah.
those federations can be contacted by people that are interested in finding out more. And that's in 40 countries. Where can people go to find out if their country has a federation that they can contact?
They go into worldotello.org, our website. There you can find every country in the world and find how to contact each federation or member. And if your country is not listed there, contact the council or the secretary.
Right. Okay. And what one thing that we're quite keen on at the moment is being able to make Othello accessible to youth across the world. Luke mentioned the Japanese Youth Championship with 2,000 players. And in fact, in the last few years, the youth players have had very strong showings to the point of dominating in some cases in the World Championship itself. But in the World Championship, the winner of there's a youth player that can go with each country, isn't there? So one of the things that we want to support, if anybody is interested in helping to arrange youth events in your country, then please contact us because we want to hear your ideas. We want to help you do that. And as I say, there is a place at the World Championships available for one youth player from each country each year that the World Championships is held, which is annually normally, just not at the moment.
Yeah. And we're also planning to do some online events soon. I know the youth group is working for that. So we will see what happens. And then our dream is to connect school and students all over the world together so they can play each other and learning each other. So
And Luke,
that we can use.
you actually, Luke, did you ever go as a youth player?
No, I think it was changed to under 14s just as I moved out of under 14s.
Okay.
And that was when the youth thing started, so I missed out. But my brother, he got to go, and that was mildly painful, but it is what it is.
Okay, and I can say that from talking to the youth as part of the media team in the last few World Championships, it's really, really enjoyable for them.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's enjoyment we want competitive enjoyment. That's what we like to see.
You remember in Prague, WEC 2017? No, in Belgium, Ghent, 2017, that we invited 3 players, one girl from Ivory Coast, one from Ukraine, and one from Great Britain. and to be interviewed. And I say that is one of the most fun interviews I ever done, with three persons who couldn't understand each other, but I found them standing at the table and play Othello and laughing and have real fun and talking with the hands, and they found uh, they could understand each other with Othello. They couldn't speak English, every one of them, but it was so fun to see that they connected thanks to the Othello.
Yeah, and I think that those relationships can go beyond the tournament as well, because I know that my own daughter occasionally is still in contact. There's a Dutch player, Jan de Graaf, and my daughter is still in contact with his daughters. We were planning to go out there and attend a tournament in the Netherlands, specifically so that my daughter could see the two girls again. But sadly, we had to put that off due to COVID. But we're looking forward to doing that. Jan, if you're watching, we're looking forward to doing that as soon as we can. Coming out to one of your tournaments.
Yeah. I have got a question at the chat. We can take that now. From Felipe Largacha. He say, why this Pan-American tournament does not give the players WF rating? Do you have a answer for that, guy? Why the online tournament don't give WF ratings?
It depends what you mean. First of all, if you're talking about the standard WOF ratings that you find on the World Othello ratings website, we made a decision to keep online tournaments separate from the offline tournaments in terms of rating. The circumstances, the feel is somewhat different. The game is the same, but the idea is to keep a special place for over-the-board tournaments. That being said, maybe you can give me a better idea on the timing of this, Bengt, but there will be what is effectively official online ratings as well. They'll just be separate from the standard WF ratings. And is this tournament contributing to the new online ratings, or was it organized slightly too early?
I think it's a little too early, but we will see how we can do it. But at least the World Othello Team Masters will be there, and some every federation will be able to create tournament at WF online Othello, who can have the World Othello online rating. Yes, so it will come in 1 month or so.
Okay, so there's two sets of ratings, one for offline, one for online. This tournament was very efficiently organized and very superbly well run. But it was just a bit too fast off the mark for us to have the online ratings ready. But future online tournaments, obviously there'll be two lots of online tournaments. There'll be those that are WOF tournaments officially, and there'll be ones that people just organize and invite people. Both are brilliant. The WOF ones will obviously carry rating changes with them for the online ratings. So hopefully that answers your question. So onto this game.
Yeah.
Oh, go on. I was just going to say onto this game. Who's favourite? What's going on? How did we get to this point? Or do we need to wait and ask Daniel that when he joins us?
Sorry.
I was just saying, we've got this game coming up now, the final of the Pan American Championship, and I was just asking how we got to this point. What format was the tournament for these two players to be in this position?
I think Daniel Olivares is better to answer on that question. But it was 7 rounds who was played online, 1 game every week. And it was over 90 players. That is amazing. So At the chat, there's people who say that we should thanks Daniel Olivares and Moises for the great tournament.
Absolutely. We'll do that in
And
person when he joins us.
yeah, he will soon come, so he can explain more. He's the expert of Panamericano de Othello.
And yeah, he's been playing a long time himself.
Yes. I was thinking about playing Othello online. Hello?
Yeah. What were you thinking about playing Othello online?
My sound is a bit... Okay. Well, I'm playing online because we have noticed now that more and more players coming and playing online, people we not know about before from countries we didn't know had Othello. As I told you before, we're a player from Oman, Macau, Myanmar, countries that I, as Sweden, know they existed, but I never met players from there before. South Africa, we have from too, and they have starting to play online. So we have some ideas together with the sponsors that we will do the online world much better.
Right. And I remember when Othello first made its way online, and I met people from across the world that I hadn't met in over-the-board tournaments from countries that I didn't know played. And it's interesting and encouraging to see that those countries are now strong countries in the World Championships. They send strong players, and I assume that the same will happen, where we hear new players in new countries, that they will get the chance to represent their country, or send a team to represent their country in the World Championships in future years.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I'm reading same time I listen to you. So
Okay, so
this, it's little, sorry for that, it's little lagging here, in fact. So that's why I'm stopping talking sometimes. Sorry.
well, what I would like to do just before the game starts is to get Daniel in, who organised the tournament, so that we can get his information on how we got to this point. So is Daniel ready to join us? I know that he's ready to join us, but is he online
Yes.
right now? Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Daniel.
Hello. Am I here?
So, yes, you are. So tell us a little bit about this
Okay.
tournament and how it was conceived and executed, and what these two players have done to get to this point.
Okay. Well, first, it was last year the first time the Pan American Championship was held online. It was in April that we had scheduled the real Pan American in Buenos Aires, and well, the world stopped, and we decided to go online. And last year we had 50 players from 9 countries from America. It was a great tournament. Ben Seele was the champion. Now, for the first time, I have the opportunity to thank very much to Ben in English. I did it many times in Spanish in our videos, but never in English. Thank you very much, Ben Seele. Well, he was the champion. It was a very strong field. Well, this year we went for more. We have last year we had 9 countries. This year there were 90 players, 11 countries, very different skills, 22 players under 18, many of them from Brazil, thanks to the great job Moises is doing there. And I think it was a good tournament. It was some way harder than last year to schedule the games to make sure every round was completed, because there were many players, not all of them with the same commitment like last year, because this was new for many of them. But it was a lot of fun. There were many well played games. And I think it was very funny. I think everyone enjoyed the tournament. It was played along 2 months, because it was one round per week, scheduling the game with your opponent. And after the 7-round Swiss, uh, the two players in the final had 6 points and a half, because they won the first 6 rounds and they draw in the Swiss. So these two players playing today, they draw in the last round of the Swiss, so it's going to be really exciting. There were many players. If I knew that there weren't to be so many players, maybe 7 rounds it's not enough. It's hard to fight for the semis. There were 8 players games. And one thing that I think I love from the tournament is that again the 4 semifinalists are from different countries. The only time that such a situation happened was in the first Pan American. In the first Pan American, there were Randy Pham from the United States, Ismael Rodriguez from Uruguay, Lucas Cherem from Brazil, and myself from Argentina. And since then, never happened again. Last year online, there were 9 countries, but 2 from the United States and 2 from Argentina in the semis. This time, again, 1 from the United States, 1 from Argentina, 1 from Colombia, and 1 from Canada, Greg Johnson from Canada. And even better than that, the first 8 places, we had 7 different countries. There were games played 5th to 8th. Lucas Cherem from Brazil was in 5th place. I was 6th place. Alejandro Reyes from Uruguay, 7th place. And Jos Ledesma from Mexico, 8th place. So 7 different countries in the first 8 places. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely one of the positives to having these online events. The accessibility for all these players from all different countries to be able to play in one tournament together, as opposed to having to travel and that restricting it. So it is really nice to see.
You mentioned Moises as well, and the work he's doing in Brazil. One series, I think different countries have been setting up some series. The World Othello Federation has set up some series online, and the Russians have done some really good tournaments, very competitive tournaments. And Brazil have set up some tournaments online as well. And there was a series that I went to a couple of the tournaments myself, and I was really impressed with the number of Brazilians that were playing competitive Othello, given starting from not a lot, not that long ago. It's really nice to see Othello growing in a country which wasn't that active previously. Well, it's amazing.
Brazil have lead tournaments with more than 100 players. Many young players. In this Pan American, 44 of the players were from Brazil. I mentioned 22 under 18. I think 20 20 were from Brazil, 20 under 18 players from Brazil. In these tournaments, there's always Fabricio, 14 years old, Luigi, 13 years old. There are many, many players in Brazil, and Moises have been doing a terrific work. I would like to say something special about that. I remember a player that complained because Moises showed a pick with the board, and the pieces in the board were not in the correct way. It was, I think, if I'm not wrong, what I remember, an impossible situation. So he argued about that, and I say we need all around the world a tournament with 100, 200 players. It doesn't matter if everyone plays bad Othello. Othello is a game, is a very funny game, and we need more players all around the world of all skill levels. If there are 15 players, 15 strong players, and one uh, bad player come to the tournament and is beaten hard for everyone, it loses interest. So we need lots of players, lots of tournaments with many, many players all around the world. That is the way. It doesn't matter if it's good Othello or bad Othello. We need kids and players all around the world playing Othello. That is what we need for a growing.
Absolutely, and it's not as if even as an experienced player, it doesn't happen that often, but experienced players make flipping errors and get into impossible positions as well. It's not that often with the top players, but certainly people who've been playing. I wouldn't say it's easily done if you're being careful, but if you're not being careful, it is easily done.
And I saw an instance on the World Othello group a few weeks ago or months ago, where someone...
The WhatsApp group.
No, it was on the Facebook group.
Okay.
Where someone was playing on Vint in one of the team games, and they accidentally had their board scrolled up, so they were playing on a 7x8 board without realizing it. So they were playing a very, very solid game, and then lost when their opponent took the corner without them realizing they even could. So there are still definitely ways that you are able to
I remember that.
I remember in 2000, in the World Othello Championship in 2000 in Denmark, one of my opponents, I'm not going to name him, we were thinking, and suddenly my opponent plays with my color in a World Othello Championship. And that was before youth players, before the tournament grow with lower level players. And I said, no, what are you doing? No, this is my color. Because it would have been a good situation for him to change the colors. And I said, no. So many things can happen online and in real boards too.
I must confess, I do that on Othello quite a lot, because Luke mentioned this website where you can play Othello, and in casual games you have 72 hours for each move, and so if your opponent takes 72 hours to move and then moves, and you get the message saying it's your move, and you pull up the screen, 72 hours is quite a long time, and it's possible for you to kind of look at the board and go, oh, I'm happy with this position, and then find out you're the other color.
Yes.
And even try and play a move thinking you're one color and it being a legal move for the other color and it being a bad move. That's ludicrous.
1 minute games with
Yeah.
that problem are always fun.
In
Okay.
I have the following rule. It's a hint to go back 2 or 3 moves to avoid that, because it happens to me too.
Yeah. Yes. Daniel, just for your sound slightly, would you be able to move your microphone slightly further away from your mouth?
Yes.
And then we'll see how that works.
Well, it's okay. It's better.
I think
Okay.
that's better.
What I didn't say is something about the two players, Rafael Pérez from
Yeah.
Argentina and Jared Platt from United States. Jared Platt is a known player in the United States. Well, there they are. He played in USA tournaments. He has between 2,000 and 100 in the Othello official ranking. And last year he came second to Ben Seeley. Ben Seeley won the tournament with easily. And after him, there were Jared Platt and Maximiliano Pellizzari from Argentina. That it was a battle in the semifinal. Jared won 2-0, but it was very, very a strong fight. And well, the other players we were in a lower level. Rafael Perez, instead, it's some kind of legend in Play OK and in Fly or Die. He has been playing for decades, 1 minute games. I think he's well respected and well known as one of the best 1 minute games players. But he never played official tournaments, and he had to adjust his play to longer time games, and it's not so easy. But he's doing a great job this year. Last year he played the first tournament with 20 minutes. Well, this year in the Swiss round, both players won their six first games, and they draw in the last one. So that's a good point for a start.
Great.
I would like to know, this is important. Rafael may have mate for the play. I think he can. Mate? Do you have
Translator
the mate
needed.
around, Rafael? Yes, like tea or coffee, but it's Argentine or from Uruguay. I saw some player from Uruguay in the chat, and he's listening. I can't say a mate from Argentina. He's going to kill me. That's the mate. Do you see it? Did you see it? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. It's allowed, isn't it? For the game to have the mate.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We can't stop people drinking. I believe before we actually started going live, Bengt actually showed us his vodka bottle that he was swigging water from, which was,
Okay.
yeah, we blame the Russians.
Well, I remember Keisuke Fukuchi having his orange juice, I think it was, or what was?
That was, yeah,
His-
and Takahashi.
Yes, he was
Yes.
with this little orange juice, I think he was drinking during his games. So I think drinks are allowed.
So
Yes,
for those
I
people
played-
who don't know these names being thrown around, Takahashi is one of the Japanese, has come through the youth system and is the current world champion, I think, given the skipped years. Luke, you played him in the last World Championship, didn't you? How did you get on?
In the 2019 World Championships, it was the first round, and I somehow got drawn against him. And I got wiped out. He turned up. He was very, very smiley and very friendly. So I thought, I'll give it my best shot and do my best. It was ruthless. It was painful every single second of it. And then he was just so polite after and gracious in such a strong win. Everything about it was just painful and nice at the same time.
That sums up a lot of Othello,
Sums up
doesn't it?
Othello.
I mean, it doesn't. A 33-31 loss can be just as painful as being wiped out sometimes. If you're thinking that the game is going well, and then you lose, it can be very, very painful.
Well, it comes to my mind. Both semifinals were decided in the third game with a draw in the last game. So this time the semifinals were very, very close. A draw in the third game decided for the best result in the first two games. That happened in both semifinals. Rafael had more discs in the first two, and Jared had more discs in the first two, and in that way they could reach the final. Rafael won to Ernesto Carrillo from Colombia, and Jared won to Greg Johnson from Canada. Earlier today, it was played the third, fourth place game. Ernesto Carrillo is the third in the Pan-American Championships 2021, and Greg Johnson in fourth place. So welcome Colombia to the medal history of Pan Americans. Colombia first medal.
Okay. I'm wondering whether it would be wrong or right to ask the players a couple of questions before the game. I don't want to put them off any patterns that they have before playing or break their concentration at all. But
I would say something about.
Okay.
Someone asked about official rating and all that. Real Othello is playing on boards. This is fun. So it doesn't matter if it's right or not in real tournaments. Of course, wait for Rafa to come back and make the question, because this is above all is fun. We have to have fun for everyone, and if it's fair or not, well, don't ask him what opening is going to play, but
of course.
Daniel, there's a question in the chat of the live stream. How is this tournament going? This final game going to work? We touched on it briefly earlier, but the format.
Yes, it's the same format as World Othello Championship. 3 games, best of 3. Rafael choose the color for the first game, and in case there's a third game, the player with more discs choose the color for the third game. It's the same situation that semifinals, and it's the same rule as in the World Othello Championships.
And who wins if it is a draw by tiebreak?
Well, if it's hard, it's really strange if that happens. But if one half points for each and the exact number of discs, Rafael is the champion because he's number 1 in the list. Both players had 6.5 points, but Rafael Pérez was number 1 by Brightwell coefficient, and Jared Platt number 2. But if 1.5 points for each, and one player have more discs, that is the winner, of course.
Okay, and just to put an extra bit of information on the commentating that's going to be happening, Luke will be hosting all 3 games. I will be commenting on the first game, and Daniel, you'll be commenting on the first game. In fact, you'll be commenting on all 3 games, and then for the second and third games, I will be leaving, and a World Championship semi-finalist, Matchesberg. Did he get to the final one year? Can't remember. But he's a wonderful World Championship player. Matchesberg from Germany will be commenting on the games 2 and 3. Okay, so I want to ask the players very, very quickly just how they are feeling. I don't want them to give anything away, but I just want to know how they are feeling with the tournament so far, how it's gone, and how pleased they are to be in this position. So if
Sure,
either of you would like to answer. Yeah, Jared's looking like he's more ready to answer.
I'll take that. I mean, I think this is great. I participated last year, and just the fact that you're getting people from so many different countries, getting them together to play online like this, I think, it's something that you never really saw before. So I think this is something that is actually beneficial that's come out of COVID and everything that's kind of happened. I feel like the Othello community is definitely getting closer and growing, and the fact that we had 90 people for this year's tournament is excellent, with representation from so many different countries. It's an honor to be here representing the United States. I'm just I'm looking forward to having a few tough games with Rafael. He's an excellent player. So I know I've got my work cut out for me, but as Daniel said before, this is for fun. And I'm just happy to be here in this great new format, which I think is awesome as well. Hopefully get some more viewership as well. So just looking forward to having some fun today and learning along the way too.
And Rafa, so it was mentioned earlier that you've never played in an over-the-board tournament, that you're an online specialist. How has this last year been for you? Because in some ways, online tournaments, online playing can be quite anonymous. People are behind nicknames, and you don't necessarily know who you're playing. And there's less structure, there's less tournaments. But in this last year, there's been more tournaments and more real names put to nicknames and that kind of thing. Do you feel that you are more part of a community this year than you were in the decades or so leading up to this year, where things have become more personable online?
Sí, traducime, Daniel.
Bueno, no, Guy te preguntaba que cómo sentiste todo este año y el año pasado el cambio de jugar tantos años online, donde hay más anonimato y de pronto se puede jugar durante mucho tiempo sin conocer a la otra persona, solamente el nick, a este año donde, o bueno, el año pasado y donde has jugado, donde has participado en torneos, donde de alguna manera te has integrado a una comunidad donde se conocen los nombres, se conocen las personas, o por ejemplo en este caso, nada menos que se conoce tu cara, y para todos los hispanohablantes que están mirando el video, tienen el placer de escuchar el acento de Córdoba. Rafael es de la provincia de Córdoba, Argentina, como Facundo Campazo también, que está jugando la NBA, y entonces Guy te preguntaba eso, ¿cómo viviste ese cambio de jugar de esa manera más anónima a esta?
Bueno, bien, creo que yo nunca me sentí anónimo, ni siempre jugué, o sea, siempre sentí que había jugadores que por ahí tenían un renombre, por supuesto, por jugar torneos, pero nunca sentí que fuese anónimo. Pero sí, siempre los jugadores son mucho más respetados cuando se hacen un nombre en el circuito profesional.
Well, he's saying that he never felt exactly anonymous. He never felt he was playing without someone on the other side. That sometimes he knew the other players. He played many times with Matias. He played with Ben. But he understands that it's another level of respect when he entered the world of Othello. He used professional, the word professional. We would love to be professional. We are not. None of us are professional, but I understand what he meant. the world of Othello players, the world Othello community of the board.
Mm-hmm.
He understood the change, but he didn't feel. If that's the word you use, I think you use it, or maybe I translate in that way what I felt you said. But I think you use anonymous. Guy?
Yeah. That was the word I used, and I didn't mean it being totally anonymous. I just meant you can play a lot of people in a short space of time and not know who any of them are. It is possible to get to know people online as well, and again through Othello is a site where you can chat. Vint is a site where you can chat and play Othello. So those are both places where you can get to know people.
The sites with a longer time for your turn, such as Othello, give you more time to play and more time to get to know your opponents, which is good for getting involved in the community.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, we are getting the time. There's something important we all need to know. The one under the transmission and the one what the players hear our comments. Now they are hearing us, but in some way, I hope the technicians and under this will cut the sound for them, so the players will be playing without hearing what we are going to say.
Yeah. So just to make that clear, once the game starts, the players will not hear what we are saying.
Yes.
They will be on their screen. They'll still show on the screen for us. We will be able to hear what they're saying. So let's hope that they keep their language clean if things go well or badly. But they will not hear what we're saying. We'll hear what they're saying. We'll see the moves that they play, but we will not. They will not hear what we're saying. And yeah, so we're a couple of minutes away now. Is there anything else that we need to say so that people who are watching and listening understand fully what's going on before we start?
I don't know. The first game, Rafael Pérez chose playing with white. The second game, they change colors. And if there is a third game, the player with more disc will choose.
Okay, so if the first two games are 1-1, Rafael starts with white and Jared with black. Black always goes first. If the first two games are 1-1, one win each, then the player with the most discs chooses the color for the third game, and yeah, that would be the deciding game.
Yes, another thing important is that if the first game one player wins and the other is a draw, there is a third game.
Right.
The match is won by the first player winning 2 points. It's not a result 1.5 to half.
Right.
So
okay.
If
So
there is a win and a draw.
Because if there's a win and a draw, the whole match can still be drawn, or it can even be won in the other direction. I suppose if there's a 64-0 win in one game and then a draw, it can only be a draw in the whole match. But even that makes it necessary to play the third game.
Hello. Here is the technical team. I need to ask Fred to start to create the game and invite Rafael so we can soon see him.
We didn't understand.
Good.
Are the table open, Rafa, Jared? Is the table open in Mint or not?
No, I think Rafa needs to create it as white.
Yes, please, Rafa, create the table using white. But it's white if you create 20 minutes, 0 seconds. and we will start to see the board, I presume.
Yep, I'm here and ready to start.
Okay. Please don't start until Andreas, what was the nick? Milionis, I don't remember. If he's there, he will be there
Yes,
probably.
here.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the players can now not hear us.
Nope, I can still hear you.
You can still hear us. Okay.
You can name.
So just a reminder, for those people who don't know anything about the game at all, this is the starting position, and I think the game is just starting. This is the starting position. On a real board, these discs are white on one side and black on the other, and each player places down a disc of their own colour, flipping any discs that are of the opposite colour between the discs he's put down and one of his own other discs.
An aggressive start.
Yeah, so there's two main
So-
moves for move 2. There's actually 3 possible moves, but in most competition play, people play what is called a perpendicular, but some people still play diagonal, and that's what's been played here. I don't know what was played in their original.
Yes, I was going through a few of Jared's previous online games on this site, and he does tend to favour the diagonal start as well.
Okay.
So it'll be
So
interesting
he's...
to see if that works in his favour.
Daniel, were you still there?
Oh, some way I had chat myself. Yes, I was
Okay.
saying that this line was played many times in the semis, 3 or 4 times in the semis by Ernesto Carrillo and Rafael Pérez and Greg Johnson and Jared Platt. In both semis, they played this line. So I'm not
Okay,
sure.
so it's possible that Jared has looked at some of those games and thought that he's going to be happy with what comes out. So for those people who don't know the game that well and the strategy, somewhat counterintuitively, early on in the game, it's quite good to keep few discs and to keep central discs that are blocked together. And the reason for this is what you're trying to do is limit the choices that your opponent has. If you limit the choices that your opponent has, then you can start to dictate the direction of the whole game, because if your opponent has no choices, then you can force them to play where you want them to play. An obvious example is corners. Corners are generally good because they can't be flipped again. And if your opponent has no choice but to play next to a corner, then you have forced them to do so. Okay, so there was a pause before that move, which possibly means that the move before Rafa wasn't expecting. Jared wasn't expecting. Okay, so this is a pretty even position at the moment. White has managed to block his pieces in the middle. Black is pulling towards the bottom left corner, depending on what he chooses to do here. But okay.
I would say there is like two styles, or maybe not styles, two different positions. White is in the middle, that is better. Black is on the edges, that is maybe not so good. But black has many moves, and white doesn't have so many moves unless he crosses the upper barrier. Probably he has to cross it right now. I don't know what you think, Guy, but probably he has to. It's better for white not to cross it, but he has to cross it.
Yeah, I would say that I think, I mean, minimally, I would say white is slightly ahead here, but you're right. There's two different styles. When you take edges, you can imagine if you take edges, then it's difficult. You're not necessarily giving your opponent immediate moves, but obviously, if they then get a corner, they get good, solid. It's difficult to defend. It's easy to sacrifice against edges, and give away a corner and get good moves in return. So white is trying to stay central, and black is trying to pull white towards the left-hand side, because white's only.
I used to say this when I suggest moves or strategies for beginners. I say, don't go to the edges. It's better to remain in the center. And then the beginner plays with a more experienced player. The experienced player go to the edges and crash the beginner. So it's
Yeah,
not so easy.
and it's definitely true that when you're learning, it's better to avoid taking edges if possible, but you also have to avoid running out of moves and your opponent grabbing an edge and leaving you no option but to play next to the corner.
So in this position,
Yeah,
black seems to be playing a lot more delicately, with taking an edge and having his position more stretched out across it, whereas
right.
white
Okay,
seems to be block building more, which seems to be a more online style of play.
Uh,
So
we could give an example of what a guy was saying some minutes ago. Suppose black plays E8. If black plays E8, black has F7 as a possible next move. But if black plays E8, white has the opportunity to play B7 without being in trouble. Or
yeah.
maybe, for
So I
example,
mean,
if not now white plays C8 and black answers E8, white may answer B7.
yeah. So Luke, picking up on your word delicate there, you're right. It's partly because black has already taken an edge,
yes,
that he doesn't want to play through the middle to the right-hand side, because then he just doesn't have any good moves to the top or to the bottom without flipping loads of discs and giving white lots of moves. So he's got to play delicately round the edge. It's part of, once you've taken that edge, you kind of have to be very aware that it's there and it's going to get in your way later in the game. But if you actually look at this position, white doesn't actually have too many moves. So if just say that black plays f8 now, white has a couple of moves at the top with C and D2, and E2 as well. So some moves at the top. but they all give black extra moves at the top as well that black can then respond with. And then white also has the option of playing next to a corner in a next square, or giving black the bottom edge just in the pair of c8, b8. But white is in danger of being forced to play next to a corner. But because black has edges, he's got the left-hand edge now. If he does take f8, he'll have the bottom edge. Then it makes it easier for white to play next to corners, because you get something out of the position. If, for example, white plays next to the a8 corner by playing b7, and black takes that corner, at the moment, it's not happening at the moment, but it could happen, that white plays b7, black takes the corner, then white takes a7, black takes one of b8 or c8, and white takes the other one, and then white has got two wedges on the black edges. Edges and wedges sounds confusing.
Yes. Well,
So
maybe we
at the
can talk
beginning
about
it did
parity.
seem, yes, but at the beginning of the game it did seem as though white was the one who was kind of block building more, whereas now, to me, it seems that black's kind of pulled that position back to himself, and it's now black who is kind of dictating the pull of the game.
Yeah, and by taking edges,
I would say that white has a safe tempo in the low left corner because of parity. Black cannot play there for the moment, so white has a safe tempo to play or b8 or maybe b7 or maybe c8. It's a tempo that white have there.
right, so what you mean by that, Daniel, is there's an odd number of spaces in the bottom left-hand corner. Therefore, if white plays in there, it goes white, black, white, black, white. White has had 3 moves, black has had 2 moves, and black then has to play again. And that big block of white pieces, black would have to play through. And white can do that almost whenever he wants, although this move here, the E2 move, means that c8 becomes available to black. So white is now in a position where he's going to have to make a decision to play out that bottom left-hand corner immediately, so that it's not suddenly made even, and white would lose its advantage that Daniel just outlined.
Anyway, if black takes to b8, probably white will answer with b7 with the same concept of parity.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah. So white has chosen to play out that odd region, potentially, which would then force black to play again. And you can see that white's pieces, although they are on the outside and he hasn't got that many moves, if black has to play through white's position, white is going to get some very nice moves once black has played through it.
So parity
he has chosen
at a beginner level is who gets the last move of the game, but at a more intermediate level, it comes into the game as early as this.
Yeah. So to explain parity, the board is 64 squares. There's 4 discs on to start with, so each player has 30 moves. Black goes first, which naturally means in a normal game, white would go last. The last move is quite powerful because it flips discs that can never be flipped back again, for obvious reasons. The game's ended. But this whole idea of getting the last move can also apply to individual regions. So the bottom left-hand region here is it's 3 spaces. If white plays in there and black plays in there and white plays in there, white gets the last move in that region, which means 1, he gets some discs that aren't easily flipped back, and 2, it forces black to play again.
I remember you teaching me about this. Yes.
And it's parity's a weird thing because parity's a strange thing.
Position. The first time you explained to him, he didn't understand. So he knows it's not so easy, and he has the ways to explain that to the beginners because he knows for his own personal experience, he didn't understand you when you explain, guy.
That's absolutely true. But it's one of those things that actually happens when you learn to play Othello. You learn about parity and the power that can come with parity. And you think you understand it, last move of the game, sure, okay, whatever. But then as you get more experienced, you realize that an awful lot of the game is based around White trying to keep a nice position and keep parity and then win the game in the end game. And Black trying to upset that parity to get more stable discs before it gets to that point, or to actually get a swindle, which is where there's a pass in a given region, and then Black gets the last moves in those regions. So in this case, Black has played in the top left-hand corner, specifically because it's an odd region. He's giving away the A1, he's giving away a corner, he's giving away a whole edge.
And also the top right region.
In order to win parity, we could say Black is going to win parity because of that, but to the cost of losing all the edge, all the left edge.
Yes, so the top right region is a region of an odd number of squares in which White cannot play because he's surrounding it. So that means that if it comes to it, White will miss a go and Black will then play into that odd region, meaning that he will have the last move of the game and thus have an advantage.
Yeah, and even more than that, it means that Black gets the last move in the other two regions. What Black has to be slightly careful of here is that if he goes to h7, he flips diagonally to c2, and that opens up White moves in that odd region. So that odd region is not necessarily a safe. He has to think about how to use that odd region and get parity, not just assume that he's got it because White can't play there at the moment. Because if he plays h7, if Black plays h7, White can still play in that odd region first. But he should be able to do that.
I will resume the parity concept in this way. Parity is not so hard to understand, but when you play, you always play the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, you get better at it over time.
And from my experience...
Yeah, Black has actually chosen here to that he believes he can get more discs just by exchanging that top left corner for the bottom right corner, and then taking as many stable discs as he can along the bottom, keeping the A8 square for parity rather than the odd region that was in the top right.
And yes, from my experience, parity seems to be something that you have to keep learning throughout your development in the game, even at a high level. So it's
absolutely.
That's why it's called a lifetime to master.
Yes.
Yeah. So Black is winning this comfortably, obviously now.
Yes.
And that is a really good example of Black playing in that top left-hand corner to play out the local parity there, give White lots of stable discs, but then in doing so, Black got the last move in that region. White had to play again, had to play down to a7, leaving the bottom left corner for parity, and then Black can wipe up the rest of the board. And it is something that beginners, it is hard to think that giving away a corner and two associated edges is a good thing to do at any point. But this is a really good example of when it can be.
So if White has the advantage of parity from the beginning, then what does Black have? Because the game starts off even, as far as we know. So what advantages do Black have?
So all analysis that we are aware of so far seems to suggest that the perfect game is a draw. White does have the advantage of parity, but black gets a lot of the choices about what openings are played and can apply a lot of pressure at the beginning of the game. In fact, as Jared tried to do in this one, by taking two adjacent edges and pulling towards a corner, he was applying quite a lot of pressure, and Rafael was needing to think carefully about how to live so that black would have to play through his big block on the outside. And in this case, that particular battle was won by Jared. He didn't have to play through in a nasty way until it was taking stable discs. How long do we have between games?
It was interesting this. I was mentioning that white had parity in the left low corner, and you were mentioning that black had the option to left white without moves. That was what happened, because although white has had parity in the low left corner, black forced the game of force white to this situation where white had to take the upper left corner, drive into this, and parity turned out to be the best advantage for black in this case.
Yeah. So black applied a lot of pressure and ran white out of moves, but actually had to sacrifice a corner and two edges to run him out of moves. And I think it would have been a white game otherwise, but I'm not certain of that.
And Guy, so the next round will start at 22.
No, I don't think so.
Minutes. That's what Bengt is saying. Bengt's saying it will start
I don't know,
at 22.
Luke, exactly. It's probably that they will start when Andreas say they are ready. I'm not sure.
Okay. But Guy, Dad, I can't call you Guy with a straight
means
face.
they already started. Andreas, that means they started.
What, that sound?
Yes, it's a bloody sound,
so
by the way.
They've started the next game. So yes. I will probably be leaving you, and Matthias will be joining shortly.
Does that mean they can hear us at the moment, or?
Jared, can you hear us at the moment? No.
Well, but I think someone told them to stop.
Okay. So we're being told by the off-screen technical team that the next game does start at 8:40 CET. So that's in 15 minutes. And I will be leaving, and Matthias Berg will be joining. So hopefully,
who
some
did
of what I've
reach
said.
The final in 2009, just so you know for future.
Okay, that's what he was saying. Okay, that's
yes,
I misunderstood that. Right, so so hopefully I've given some useful commentary on some of the basics of how Othello's strategy works. Matthias will probably give some more in-depth technical and expert advice on the positions that come out of the second game. But I will let Matthias introduce himself when he gets here, or Luke, you can.
I will do. I'd say thanks for being here, but I'm not sure when you're going to disappear. But
we can say thanks anyway.
Alright, so here's the next game.
Yes, it seems it's the next game.
So again, it's diagonal.
This time,
This time
Jared
with
is
Rafael as
white.
black, so Jared chose the diagonal.
Well, I told you, Guy, that many of the games of semi-final were diagonal.
Yeah. And the same opening, a very popular opening in the semi-finals.
Yes.
Because if black has that control in the opening, and the perpendicular opening is more common, then I guess that's a little bit of control that white gets back by choosing whether to play diagonal or not.
Yes, absolutely.
As well. So it's kind of a prisoner's dilemma situation where they might not know it as well. It could give them that little bit of advantage that they need.
There are many lines in chat diagonal perpendicular. Maybe it does to choose. No, I'm not sure if I said the correct line because there is not a correct line. Some is that your opponent
I think you're cut it, Daniel. If you could start again.
Do you hear me?
I can hear you now, I think.
Your sound was very broken then.
Are you hearing me?
I think
yes.
so.
Okay.
So does the perpendicular opening, does that, hey, Matthias? Let's
Hello, Matthias. Matthias, many times in the first places of World Othello Championships. Welcome. From Germany, by the way.
Hello.
Hello. We can hear you.
Hello,
I don't
Matthias.
think you're
Yes.
moving here. You so.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Well, I haven't seen this position yet. I think we have some connection issues. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Fine. So you haven't seen the position yet, but can you see that now?
Oh.
So there seems to be a few issues, but they're just getting sorted.
I think Black would like to play d7 next, and that's why White should try to keep access to c7, maybe by playing g3.
And why special c7?
After d7, c7 would have been a nice quiet move. Only flip an internal disc.
Okay. Yes,
I would
Matthias.
like to confirmation I am being heard or not.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
So black doesn't have many moves, and all the moves that black has are flipping a lot of discs. So
Yes,
white
so
managed to keep all his discs together, and there's a problem that black has b3s. That is the reason why several of the moves are very loud. Without a black b3, we would have a nice f3 instead.
yes, so it does at first glance, to me at least, look like black is comfortably ahead, but that b3 black is ruining quite a lot of the black potential moves.
Wait, you said that
Which makes
black
it
is ahead?
I would have thought it looked like it, apart from b3 is there, which, as you said, makes the moves loud, which means it flips a lot of discs.
So yeah, I guess white will consider either f3 or g5 now. G5 might be followed by f3. Yeah, I guess that's why he went for f3 instead, because now a good sign, and yeah, black is on three sides of the white pieces, which is making it quite complicated.
And Matthias, you've played a lot of on the board in person tournaments and a lot of quick online games. Would you say that Rafael's style is an online game kind of style, like a 1 minute kind of style, and how?
Well, they're both playing quite fast. I don't feel like I could judge Rafael's style by just watching one or two games. I have played him probably many games, but most of this is from a decade ago. I know him as a very strong online player, but I don't really get to play him often, and it's hard to judge. I mean, the last game we had an opening that was quite popular, and I guess it's also often online. It's frequently played in 1 minute games, and then the end game, there wasn't much to do for him anymore. Just a few difficult moves in the mid game, but the game was a little bit too fast, I guess, to actually make the right choices, and it wasn't easy.
So the current position, white wants to keep the b3 disc to make black's potential moves louder.
Yes.
Does that mean that, say, a3 could be a potential tempo for white, or would that potentially cost him the game?
Well, white should not consider playing a3 for a while, because this b3 disc is quite good to be black for white. And there's lots of other options white can play. White can play on the east side, like h4 or f2. I guess now that there's a c2 disc, black a3 is not as bad as it would have been without that. Like if there's no f3, c2, then we would have a3, a4, a5, and that's just giving white the edge, and that's not really useful. You don't gain any tempo. But yeah, he chose f2.
It's not necessary for black now to play h3 to gain access to different that move I was suggesting.
Yeah, well, now it's a clear move for white. I mean, white doesn't want
That
black
would be
to play
G5.
g5. Yeah,
And that's because
and
it's
then
central, very quiet for white.
it's a quiet move. It only flips internal disk, and yeah, if white would have to place somewhere else, and then black plays in there, and white has to play somewhere else again, white is losing too much tempo.
And also, I guess, going back to the topic of power leaves a even region on the right middle hand side of the board, which can then be good for white later. Of H5 and
Yes,
H4.
the h5 and h4 pair, yeah, it gives potential for white later to flip the diagonal if he needs to. So he should not play it unless he has a good reason to do so, because black will not play in there usually. Now white only has access to h4, and that would flip g3, which is very bad. And so black might go for a5 here. That might be one way to open the border on the left side. There's no good place to play on the right or on the bottom, and I don't think black wants to flip the e1 disk.
Why is white?
Plays c1.
White c1 and black
Yes.
should not go for d1.
No, I was thinking if white plays c1, black a3.
I guess that's, well, that if a3 would give a nice f8 move for white, so yeah. So I don't think a3 was a good choice. Maybe a4 would have been better, or rather a5.
Matthias, you. So they're playing quite quickly. They have 20 minutes each. In an on-the-board tournament, that 20 or 20 or half an hour would tend to get used up as players use that time to think. So what's the difference here? Why are being played faster, and is that something that improve upon?
Well, for once, I think Rafael isn't really used to play long thinking games. He's just playing lots of fast games online. Like, I don't remember playing 10-minute games with them. I would only remember 1 to 3 minutes. Jared is actually using more time and 10 minutes, and we have how many moves have we played already? He might need the 10 minutes for the end game if it's getting complicated. So yeah, 20 minutes is not really my favorite timer, because you need to play faster than our normal 25 or 30 minutes. But if the end game is not difficult, you end up playing just a fast game.
But would you say, Matthias, that playing 20 minutes online is more or less like 5 minutes over the board?
Relaxed, you mean?
I mean, when you play over the board, you need to flip, you need maybe to take transcripts. I think 20 minutes online is more or less 25 over the board.
Because of flipping, okay.
Flipping, writing down moves. Yeah.
So I think flipping takes maybe around 2 minutes.
Well,
So the edge on the left, on the A column file, on the A file, that's uneven for black. So is that going to affect him at any point, do you think? Matthias?
which one, Luke? Which side?
So on the left side, on the A file, black has edge that's 3 pieces, with the A3 space kind of being open. Will that affect black at any point, do you think?
No, not necessarily, no. I think black is, in this moment, fighting for tempos. Black doesn't want to enter the low left corner because there are 7 discs empty there, and that's a weakness for white. But he hasn't many places to go elsewhere. For example, now white has to choose what to do. Playing in the hole in h4 doesn't seem very good. And what other move he has? For example, maybe he can play c1, and that could potentially go to an unbalanced edge on the upper side if black plays one. Well, he goes to c1. Now black has to choose what to do. One possibility is to play b6. But I don't think the 3 you mentioned is a weakness for black. Don't think so.
And even with playing quickly, go on.
He can black can play, for example, d1, and if white takes the edge to playing g1, maybe black can play b2 because there's going to be an unbalanced edge.
Yes, and if black were to play in d1 and white to g1, would that be a problem for white because he'd have 2 edges that were opposite each other? Would that poison future moves?
Sorry, I didn't follow you. If black plays d1,
if d1 white takes that edge, have 2 edges that are opposite at the bottom and at the top. Would that then lead to his future moves being poisoned and flipping more discs than he needed?
Yeah, absolutely. White is not good for white to have those edges in the upside and in the bottom side. But the problem that he can play next move, and he doesn't have many options. I mean, black plays now d1. White takes g1. Black needs to decide what to do. I would b2, but I'm not sure or not. Maybe there's another move.
I'm not sure. It will be interesting. So he's gone.
Well,
he's gone D1,
as I said.
But also because the diagonal from B1 to kind of G6, because that's all black. That means that if white does take G1, white doesn't actually have access to B1 to complete that edge.
Yes, it doesn't have immediate access, but black, I think it's better for D2 because if he doesn't choose D2, he needs to break the lower left corner, and it's an advantage for black that needs to keep.
So now he kills in the hole.
That is better, I think.
So Black will likely take the top edge here because he doesn't want to play in the bottom left region, I think.
Yes, maybe, but it's a huge weakness for black if he takes. Maybe he has to take it not to enter the lower region, but it's not good. It doesn't seem good for black.
Matthias, are you still there? I can't hear you.
Well,
no, I don't.
He decided to take.
So he's taken. So now does that gives white the opportunity to play G2 and then H2 in order to sacrifice there? So white
agree.
gets a tempo there.
Yes.
So although black has the lower left region, white has seems to have more option in the other regions, which force black to play into the lower left region earlier than needed.
Hello?
Hello? I think I heard you just now, Matthias.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yes, you're back.
Okay.
Were you muted?
Yeah.
Because we weren't sure what we were talking. We were making some comments.
Daniel was pretty much answering all the same thing that I was saying, but yeah. So I do agree with the H4 move. I think Daniel was suggesting H2 instead, but I think it works better this way. I also agree white should not take the edge, like you should not go for G1 instead. I think black is in quite some trouble, even so he has the odd region in the south, but he's likely having to sacrifice a lot to keep it up, and I don't see that happening. For example, now G1.
So do you think black will have to play into the lower left region, Matthias?
I would play here D8.
D8. Because if he plays D8, then C8 means that this odd region still exists.
Yeah. Well.
Wow, that thing.
Matthias, I need an explanation here. I don't even know what to say to that.
We lost Matthias. So now look, let's do this. That was interesting. Don't know what to say.
Well, if white takes the corner,
the only my mind that black is some desperately way to keep the lower advantage, but doesn't seem. Well, now black has to play probably G1. Yes. To keep one
so
of
he's
those
just playing
line
parity
one.
now.
Or like if he takes the corner, at least black has line 2.
Well, that was certainly unexpected. So is the idea here just to keep the odd region and just play out, even if it means playing moves that quite so standard?
I think I would take the corner. Take H1, H2, A2. I would go in that work and fail for white.
So white's okay.
No, you can hear me again?
Yeah, I think it's
Yes.
when it's just the players' videos, you get muted for some reason. I don't know.
So the reason he played B2 is probably because the alternative would be G1, H1, H2, and there would be a white parity trick with A2. So white would get A2, A1, and even a third move out of these 4. That's why he started playing in that region first, and then tried to get parity in the other region with now, as we see. But of course,
is this? Go on.
white just got into that parity region, so but yeah, I mean,
Is this desperate play from black, or is this going to end up well?
no, this should be. White is very strong, having the north edge and the west edge, and also there will be a very strong G7 for white later. I think black might end up getting the south edge. But yeah, there will also be a very huge B7 move for white after C8, B6, and then H1, H2, and then there will be a very big B7. So, and then black can take the corner. But yeah, white's just getting too many columns and rows. I think this will be another win. The first one was also won by Jared, right?
Yes. So white.
So white,
that will,
white could even consider playing B8 and give black both of these moves at the bottom, and for that white would get the spindle at H1. But I think just go for the big rows and columns should be enough.
Let's explain this to the people watching the video. What kind of
They don't give us time for that.
The swindle you suggested I want to explain, but
Well,
now it's too hard to explain.
No. Yeah. So that's what I mean. It's another big row, and black will get the diagonal, but yeah, white will just
so we have
parity
Pan
and
American champion. We have a Pan American champion or not?
yeah, that is
It
quite.
seems, yes. Seems so.
Go, Garrett.
Let's wait for the end, though. Just as something Matthias missed here, you know.
He may still lose on time.
True.
Well, he
They have
doesn't have to
actually
flip.
used.
But
They've
yeah, he
used a
needs
lot
the
more of
time
their
to count.
in this game.
In this case, it's not that important. But just imagine the position a little bit more complex, and he has to make a decision like this. And 1 minute 30 left is not really much.
So here, I think I would play G7, Matthias.
Yeah,
Yes.
Wouldn't
Which piece
count.
is what? Okay. Double checking that was okay.
Okay.
28.
Okay.
28. Congrats, Garrett.
So congratulations to Garrett.
21 Pan American champion for Garrett Platt. 2021 Rafael Pérez.
Can you?
I can hear you.
Yes, now. So how did that feel? Was that straightforward or Jared?
Yeah.
Congrats.
Sorry, Daniel?
Congrats, Jared, I said.
Oh, thank you.
So yes, did that go as planned? Had you looked at Rafael's gameplay before the final?
Actually, no. I hadn't too much. I remember the last game we played, and that ended up in a draw. And he went with a slightly different opening, but at least in the first game when he was white and I was black, and it was something that I had studied and I'm familiar with. I actually played that opening in the AAOT against Paolo from Italy, and I knew that sequence pretty well. So I felt somewhat comfortable, and then I think Rafa made one maybe poor move somewhere in the mid game. I think it was maybe D1 or C1, and I felt like from there that gave me parity to kind of seal that game and seal that win. And then the second game, it was a little bit of a different opening than I'm used to, but I just kind of played what I thought worked, and just kind of followed the momentum of the game, and I guess it just worked out.
Nice. Yeah, it was well played. Rafa, you've played a lot of 1 minute games. How did that transfer to this longer time? Did you find that nicer to have more time to think, or was that difficult because it clashed with your intuitive play?
Rafa,
Sí,
¿te
Daniel.
traduzco?
Sí, dale.
Luke dice, ha jugado muchísimos juegos de un minuto, estábamos comentando también con Matías eso. ¿Cómo viviste la transición? Si por un lado, te sentiste más cómodo con más tiempo para pensar, o de alguna manera eso entró en contradicción con el juego más intuitivo de un minuto. ¿Cómo viviste eso? Te pregunta Luke, no yo.
Sí, creo que, digamos, siempre en una época jugaba partidas más largas, pero no, me sentí cómodo igualmente jugando partidas de 20 minutos. Pero lo mismo, por lo menos hoy, no me noté cómodo con los movimientos. O sea, siempre noté que Jared tenía una muy buena respuesta a cada iniciativa que ejecutaba, pero aún así intenté, creo que al menos en la segunda partida intenté darle una batalla, pero jugó muy bien Jared y no lo felicito.
Rafa says he used to play longer games some time ago. He didn't play all the time 1 minute games. And he felt okay with the time. He felt all the time he was behind. He had the feeling Jared was better, and he tried to give the battle, but that Jared played very well. I would say this. I followed Rafa games last year in our championship and this year in the Pan American. And I agree with Rafa. I think this year he felt much more comfortable than last year playing longer games. I saw him taking the time when he needed. There are many players that play fast over the board, many. So some players decide to play faster. I don't know what you think, Matthias, but there are all kind of players over the board. And I think Rafa made a difference this year. Last year, I felt him uncomfortable. But this year, when he had to think, when he had the need to think, he used his time.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen last year's games of Rafael, but I do agree that he did spend a lot of time. And I mean, the fact that he has 6 minutes left in this game was just because at some point the end game was not really complicated enough, and I don't think there was much to try to make it complicated. I mean, playing this B2 was already. I think it was a nice choice to try to make it a little bit more complicated. But yeah, you need to have some time in the end if it's getting a complicated endgame. But at this time, it was not really complicated. So I think it was decent time management.
And Jared, we talked during the first game about, from some of your previous games, you seem to favour the diagonal beginning.
I do.
That was played again here. Did that benefit you? And would you say that's an opening that's more played online than in person?
You know, to be honest, I'm not sure, and I don't want to give away too many of my trade secrets, but I generally only play that opening when I'm black, and I play kind of the opposite when I'm white. So those are just the openings I feel most comfortable with, and that's generally how I start. Obviously, there's a lot of different variations that can come of that, but generally, I tend to stick with my first moves for white and black always.
And Matthias, you again have had big experience in both online and in-person play. Would you say that the play here was similar to being in person, or how did it vary being online?
I mean, if you just see the game, I don't think that you can say that, oh, this looks more like an online game, or this looks like an tournament on the board tournament game. I mean, both games. I think the first game was more surprising for me. The opening was. Wait, not that was it. The second game was. Less frequent opening, I would say. At least I haven't seen it that way, and but I also don't play that opening so much, so I can't say if this is not more frequently played. But especially the first game looked very standard, solid opening. This is.
I think
didn't feel like it was an online blitz game.
In the first game,
Yeah.
it was a known line. Both players played the known line, and Jared crashed Rafa. So Rafa thought in the second game, okay, let's try something different. And from the beginning, he tried to surprise to play something different and try to do it that way.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say on the second game, like I said, I was pretty comfortable with the opening when I was black. For the second game as white, I think that's a variation on the Heath bat opening. So I generally in that situation like to play a -2 instead of I think either a +2 or a 0 move starting out of the gate, just to be a little bit different. And then from there, I think Rafa made a couple of moves that were slightly different. So the opening tended to be a little bit of a variation in terms of kind of right out of book. But nevertheless, I think it was pretty close all the way through. I mean, maybe I felt like I had a slight edge in the second game, but to be honest, in the first game, up until Rafa made that. I mean, I would almost called him. I think it was a mistake. I think he was actually ahead, possibly. I mean, I'll have to go back and analyze the game later. But I actually was feeling a little bit uncomfortable in that first game up until Rafa made. I think it was, like I said, either D1 or C1. So yeah, I mean, even despite the score of the first game, I would say both were very tight fought.
thanks.
I have a question for the four of you. Felipe Largacha in the chat asked about why these tournaments weren't counted for the World of Othello Federation official ranking. In my personal opinion, Othello is a game that is played on boards, and we must promote and with all the strength to do many tournaments all over the world with boards. But given the situation all the world is, and how did you feel with the camera? I mean, it's a possibility that the world turn chess, Othello, Go, turn into more online official tournaments. There is something called hybrid in chess that has already is a reality, where, for example, there are some players, I don't know, in Buenos Aires, and some players in Paris, and all of them play the same tournament with officials, but some of the games are played online and some of the games are played on the board. I mean, this disaster, I think it tends to that maybe there are more options. And of course, if that is the future, maybe the camera is needed. How did you feel with the camera? And what do you, Matthias, for example, think about this in the future?
Well, I'm just going to
Did you
jump in
feel
and
the same?
say at the World Championships in person, the top boards and sometimes some of the lower players, such as myself, they are filmed playing and there are cameras on their table. So it's not a totally new thing, but I suppose the experience of watching yourself kind of move in the corner at the same time as playing would be weird.
No. Let me say I'm a teacher. I've been working online all last year with people on the other side of the screen. It's not the same to be on the stage of the tournament and being filmed, that being watched in your home. It's not the same to be watched in your home for other people around the world. It's different. So that is what I meant. I mean, we are invading Jared, we are invading Rafa in their homes, and they are playing a game, and maybe they feel uncomfortable or not. I don't know. As this may be the future, I'm just asking how did they feel?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'll answer that. I did not mind. I just tried to, pretend the camera wasn't on, to be honest, it really wasn't. I didn't even have this screen open. I just had the game open, that I was playing on Vint. So I didn't see, myself. I didn't see Rafa. I didn't see anyone talking. So it wasn't a distraction. Um, with regards to your question about this being the future and whether this should count towards real world rankings, I don't know. I might be of the minority in this opinion, but I think the rankings should remain separate. I think there's something to be said about playing over the board, and kind of maybe having a separate, online rating. Just because I'm not saying that anyone would, but it opens the door towards people, let's say, cheating, or there's no way to monitor it, right? So when you're playing over the board, that everything is real and truthful, and if you start incorporating and mixing people playing online, and I don't know, it just gets kind of complicated, and I don't know that there's a real good way to enforce that. So, I'm all for having maybe two separate rankings, but at the same time,
Yes.
if that's kind of the format that things are going in chess or other, strategic games, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know what, experts out there
And
are thinking, someone like Matthias maybe, or whoever else, and their views on that. But I think I kind of like the idea of having people turning up for tournaments in person and having your over the board ranking be separate from whatever you're known as online.
And yes, that's something we talked about earlier. Guy said the plan is to have the online ratings separate from official in-person ratings, but still both there. This tournament has been organised faster than the online rating system has been, and that's why it won't be there for this, but that will be the plan in the future. Anyway, that's a good topic for a future live stream debate, which will be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's all for the stream tonight. Thank you everyone who tuned in. We really enjoyed having you all reading the chat. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's more important than you realize. It helps grow Othello. Make sure you like the Facebook page and join the World Othello Facebook group if you haven't joined it already. Yes, and thank you to the commentators. Thank you to me, to Guy, to Matthias, and to Daniel. You all did great. Thank you, of course, to the production, which were Bengt, Andreas, George, Daniel, and Mario. Thank you for handling all that behind the scenes. And of course, thank you to Jared and Rafa for playing and giving us incredible games to watch. So very well played, and congratulations
Thank
once
you.
again to Jared.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it last year and just as much this year. So hopefully we'll keep it going.
Yes. Thank you very much, and hope you all enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.